You are about to embark on a journey into the realm of myths, where ancient legends come alive and the boundaries between reality and imagination blur. Here, thunder echoes with the voices of forgotten gods, prophecies unfold beneath shimmering constellations, and every shadow holds a secret waiting to be revealed. Prepare to lose yourself in a world shaped by timeless stories, where dreams and destiny intertwine. Welcome, adventurer, to the mysteries of myth dreams. You open your eyes to the edge of the world. Waves crash in slow motion, curling like ribbons of glass under a peach-colored sky. The sea is calm, but charged, as if holding its breath. And then, just beyond the spray, something begins to rise. Not a monster, not a storm, but a goddess. She doesn't walk ashore, she glides. Foam clings to her skin like silk. Roses bloom where her feet almost touch the water, and the horizon turns gold, as if embarrassed. You watch, not because you're supposed to, but because you can't not. Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, love, pleasure, and everything that makes poetry slightly harder to write. Born not from the womb, but from sea foam. Sea foam created when Cronus flung Uranus's, severed parts into the ocean. Greek myths are a wild ride. Scholars still debate whether this birth was symbolic or just a poetic excuse to explain her radiance. Either way, she arrives full-formed and devastating. The gods are not prepared. Zeus pauses mid-thunderbolt. Poseidon forgets to be brooding. Hermes trips over his own winged sandals. Even Hestia, who usually minds the hearth and avoids drama, glances up. Everyone wants her, everyone fears her. And Aphrodite? She smiles politely and does exactly what she wants. You trail behind her as she strolls through the gardens of Olympus, where vines curl just a little more sweetly when she passes. She speaks softly, but her words ripple like earthquakes. Her power doesn't come from war or prophecy. It comes from being desired. But here's the trick. Aphrodite is not love itself. She is the force of love, wild, reckless, enchanting. Her affection is a gift and a curse. Those she favors rise fast. Those she forgets fall faster. And those who challenge her, they learn why beauty is not always gentle. You see her meet Ares, the god of war, and their chemistry is so intense, even the doves get uncomfortable. Together, they are chaos and attraction embodied. But their love is also explosive, forbidden, and, honestly, a little toxic. She's married to Hephaestus, after all, the god of forge and fire, a genius with a limp who loves her quietly and watches her dance with the war god anyway. She doesn't apologize. She never has to. Mortals build temples to her, paint her face on vases, whisper her name before every impulsive decision. She stirs hearts, inspires poets, and once caused a war over a golden apple. More on that later. And yet, and this might surprise you, Aphrodite isn't cruel. She's just honest. She doesn't pretend love is simple. She knows it's messy, fiery, divine. She knows that beauty can break hearts as easily as it heals them. And she knows that every story she touches will never end where it began. You leave the sea behind now, and the wind tastes like pomegranate and roses. Love has arrived. You follow the scent of crushed petals and sweet mischief through the halls of Olympus, and it leads you straight to the gentle chaos of Eros. No, not the angel from Valentine's Day cards, not yet. Here, Eros is something older, wilder, less about courtship, more about fate. He begins as a primal force, one of the first elements to emerge from chaos, depending on which poet you ask. Later myths call him the son of Aphrodite, which makes sense in the poetic sense of love begets love. But in truth, Eros doesn't need a mother or a family tree. He is desire, the tingle behind your ribs, the sudden breathlessness before a kiss, the moment when someone laughs and you forget your own name. He doesn't talk often. He doesn't need to. You find him perched on the edge of a marble column, barefoot, wings flapping like a restless bird. His bow is slung over one shoulder, his quiver rattling with arrows tipped with lead and gold. One arrow arouses love, the other indifference. And honestly, he doesn't always check which arrow is which. Eros shoots indiscriminately. Gods, mortals, monsters, nymphs, sometimes even himself, which leads to trouble. We'll get to that later. His arrows are not gentle. They don't ask questions. They pierce skin and rewrite fate. Remember the time he shot Apollo with gold and Daphne with lead? Apollo became obsessed. Daphne ran, literally turned into a tree to avoid him. Scholars still debate whether that was tragedy or divine comedy. Yet Eros just shrugged and called it art. But he's not heartless, at least not completely. You notice how his expression changes when he hears the name Psyche, or Narcissus, or even Orpheus. Something between guilt and pride flashes in his eyes. The eyes of someone who knows what he's done but can't take it back. Because love, once unleashed, isn't something you can lock away. And while Aphrodite commands worship, Eros has consequences. His power is subtler, sharper, less like a flame and more like a sliver under the skin. People don't always see him coming. That's the problem. You hear footsteps behind you, a mortal girl with soft eyes and an unwritten destiny. Eros sees her too, and suddenly, the air is tense. Because what happens next is something even the gods could not have predicted. He draws an arrow, hesitates, and accidentally shoots himself. And what? That changes everything. The god of desire is about to learn what it means to feel it. But that's the next part of the story. Now, you see him startle, his wings fluttering, as he realizes what humanity has known all along. Love is not a weapon, it's a wound. The wind quiets, the light shifts. You find yourself in a place between dream and dusk, somewhere that feels like a whispered story just before sleep. And there, walking barefoot on stone steps that lead nowhere and everywhere, is Psyche. She is not a goddess, not yet, just a mortal girl whose beauty made even Aphrodite uncomfortable, which is, frankly, not an easy feat. People began to whisper her name instead of Aphrodite's in temples. They offered roses to Psyche, prayed for love to her. You can imagine how well that went over. Aphrodite, ever subtle in her vengeance, sends her son Eros to deal with the issue. Make her fall in love with something awful, a monster, a goat, an insurance salesman maybe, just ruin her. But Eros makes a mistake. He sees her, and in that instant, that sharp, impossible second, he wounds himself. The arrow meant for her lodges instead in his own chest, and the god of desire falls truly, madly, inconveniently in love. You follow Psyche as her story twists into something almost too beautiful to bear. She's taken from her family to a palace made of shadow and gold, where every room hums with invisible kindness. Every meal appears without sound. Every night, her mysterious husband comes to her, cloaked in darkness, never showing his face. He tells her not to look, and for a while she listens. But love, like curiosity, is rarely content with mystery. Eventually, Psyche lights a lamp. She wants to see the face of her beloved, the voice that soothes her, the hands that hold her like she matters. She leans in, and the oil drips from the lamp onto his shoulder. And that's when everything shatters. Eros flees, not in anger, in fear. Gods do not do well with broken trust. The palace collapses. The silence returns. And Psyche, left alone, begins a journey not of love, but of earning it back. Aphrodite, perhaps enjoying the chaos, assigns Psyche a series of impossible tasks. Sort a mountain of grains by nightfall. Fetch golden wool from violent rams. Descend into the underworld and return with a box of Persephone's beauty. And don't open it. Spoiler, she opens it. Inside is not beauty, but sleep, the deep, heavy kind. She collapses, still and pale, on the steps of a world that never loved her easily. And then Eros returns. He has changed, grown, loved. He brushes the sleep from her eyes. He lifts her from the ground. And for once, in a myth where everything usually ends in doom or flowers, something else happens. They are forgiven. Zeus himself, ever fond of dramatic romance, grants Psyche immortality, not as punishment, as reward. And so, the mortal becomes the goddess of the soul. She marries the god of love. And together, they remind Olympus of something dangerous and divine. Love is not about power, it is about persistence. You exhale. Somewhere inside you feel lighter. The stillness shifts again. You step through a garden where the flowers are all facing a small pond, as if enchanted by their own reflections. The air hums with silence. And then you see him, a boy, beautiful beyond reason. hair that glows like early morning sun, skin kissed by gold, and eyes, well, you wouldn't know, because he's not looking at you. He's too busy staring at himself. Narcissus. You've heard the name, but the story? It's stranger, sadder, and far more poetic than the modern insult it's become. Born of a river god and a nymph, Narcissus was so stunning that people couldn't look away. But he couldn't look back. He was cursed, or perhaps blessed, to never find love outside his own reflection. He roamed the forests, untouched, alone. Nymphs fell in love with him. Mortals composed songs. Echo, the poor, cursed nymph who could only repeat what she last heard, followed him silently for days. She finally stepped into his path, arms out, heart bare, and all she could say was, "Love me." He glanced at her, smiled, then walked away. And she faded into nothing. Just her voice remains, repeating things in caves and canyon walls and your most embarrassing moments. Some say Nemesis, goddess of divine retribution, saw this and thought, "Oh, honey, no." She cursed Narcissus, or maybe just nudged the mirror into place. Because one day he knelt beside a clear pool and saw himself, and he didn't move. He fell in love with the eyes that matched his, the lips that curved like his, the stillness that would never break. And he stayed until he withered away. Some say he turned into a flower, the delicate white and gold bloom that bears his name. Others say he died, dreaming of someone who could never love him back. You sit beside the pond now. You can almost hear him whispering to his reflection. You might think this is a story of vanity, but listen closer. It's a warning. Scholars still debate whether Narcissus was cursed or just misunderstood, whether he was a cautionary tale or a tragic poem written in the language of self-love and loss. In ancient Greek culture, reflection was considered a doorway, a liminal space between this world and something stranger. They didn't hang mirrors casually. They feared them, revered them. And in that silver pool, Narcissus didn't just see himself. He saw eternity. You glance into the water beside you. No reflection, just a ripple and a sigh, like someone long ago just gave up trying to reach themselves. The garden darkens and the scent of crushed rose petals follows you like a farewell. You cross a marble threshold and enter a room lit only by candlelight. Each flame flickers as if caught between hesitation and longing. A shadow moves across the far wall. And then she steps into the light, delicate, radiant, eternal. Psyche. You may have heard her name wrapped in perfume ads and romantic fan fiction, but her story? It's one of the oldest and deepest love tales ever whispered through myth. Psyche wasn't a goddess. Not at first. She was a mortal, a princess so beautiful that people stopped worshipping Aphrodite to admire her instead. Which, as you can guess, didn't go over very well. Aphrodite, never one to take competition gracefully, summoned her son, Eros, god of love, now all grown up and terrifyingly gorgeous in his own right. "Make her fall for something hideous," Aphrodite commanded, probably while sipping ambrosia with way too much attitude. But Eros, young, winged, and very not emotionally prepared, accidentally pricked himself with his own arrow when he saw Psyche. Classic. So now, the god of love was in love with the one girl he wasn't supposed to be near. Eros whisked Psyche away to a hidden palace, one that only existed under moonlight and whispers. He visited her every night, but she was forbidden to see his face. Their love grew in the dark, but eventually, doubt crept in like fog. One night, Psyche lit a lamp while Eros slept. She needed to know who he truly was. Maybe she just wanted to see the eyes of the voice that had become her home. The light touched his face. He woke, and everything shattered. He vanished, heartbroken. The palace crumbled. Psyche was alone. But unlike most mortals in myths, Psyche didn't wilt. She searched, endured impossible trials, from sorting seeds to retrieving water from the underworld, all to earn her place beside the one she loved. At last, Zeus himself intervened. Moved, amused, or maybe just tired of the drama, he made Psyche immortal. And so, the mortal girl who dared to love a god became one herself. Together, Psyche and Eros had a daughter, Hedone, or Voluptas, the spirit of bliss. And you? You're still in that candlelit room. The flames now dance gently, no longer torn between fear and warmth. It's hard to say if this story is about love or redemption, about the price of curiosity or the reward of devotion. Scholars still debate whether Eros and Psyche's union symbolizes the soul's journey toward divine love, or just the world's oldest, it's complicated relationship status. But what you do know is this: some stories aren't meant to warn you. They're meant to carry you across shadows, over thresholds, and into arms that don't vanish when the light comes on. You close your eyes, you can almost hear the wings. Let the echoes of ancient gods and forgotten lovers carry you into gentle dreams. You've wandered through longing, sacrifice, and the strange language of love that even immortals struggle to speak. And tomorrow, the myths will still be here, waiting. Good night. If this story helped you drift a little further from today, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us next time beneath the clouds of legend. Tell me where you're listening from, the hour, the city, or the myth you carry close. Sleep well, we'll be waiting in the next tale.